Mid-season form around Louisiana with some of these high school football matchups. We've had some great pre-district matchups really from the very beginning, but now some fantastic district matchups where you add that much more familiarity and stakes to every Friday night or Thursday night or Saturday afternoon. And this is Louisiana versus All Yale's Recruit Dat Boot, eager to get into one of the biggest games of the season so far, although we don't want to hype it up too much. We got a guest who is very quick to say, oh, there's a showdown next week. I didn't realize there was a showdown. But Edna Karr and St. Aug, always a huge matchup, and we've got St. Aug coach Robert Valdez joining us in a second. But Sam, I mean, we're excited about this matchup every single year, and this one kind of epitomizes some of what is a great week 5 around Louisiana, and so we've been excited to talk about it. What stands out about this one for you as we gear into these week 5 games?
There's just so many matchups that are just dripping with intrigue throughout this game on both sides of the ball. I mean, we're going to talk about it with Coach Valdez, but you don't get to be at the top of the Catholic League for both of these programs without fantastic players and excellent coaches, Coach Robert Valdez, Coach Bryce Brown at Aug and Karr respectively, and their entire coaching staffs below them will have these young men ready to go to battle on Friday. Last season was a fantastic matchup. We were both at. I'm excited for this edition of it. We talk about it from the evaluation standpoint of, big players step up in big games. And often that's super cliche because in the high school realm, any weekend could be a big game. Any win or matchup can set off a kid for a breakout game in the rest of his season, or you never know what coaches are watching or on the sidelines. But when you have a program like St. Aug and Karr's programs like Karr and St. Aug squaring off, you have Power 4 bound players going up against future Power 4 bound players, where you're able to get on a Friday night a great context of how good both of these young prospects are. On this side, you'll have this St. Aug offensive line, and we're going to talk about it with Coach Valdez, trying to contain Big Rich Anderson, the 5-star defensive lineman from Karr, number 1 or 2 defensive lineman in the country. Certainly in the mix for his number 1 player in the state, top 25 in the country. Coach Valdez has a bunch of young offensive linemen he's excited about. And then on Aug's side, you have 2 of the best receivers in the state. Miguel Whitley, a top, I think, 150 player in the country out of St. Aug at receiver. And they're going to have to do battle against 2 Power 4 bound cornerbacks, Mo Williams, who's going to Colorado, Hayward Howard Jr., who is committed to Texas and has visited LSU this season. Will have their hands full with some fantastic one-on-one matchups on the outside. And of course, Aiden Hall, one of the best, most game-breaking safeties. Last time I saw him live, he returned a pick 6 in the Superdome for the state championship. We love his freelancing ability and his game-breaking abilities on the back end. Will he be the catalyst to slowing down Aug on the ground or potentially through the air? Those are just a few of the big things that I'm paying attention to. In addition to John Johnson, Karr's quarterback has been just a dynamic high school football quarterback. We know that he's going to be a fantastic athlete if and when he gets the liberty. And St. Aug is deep at quarterback too, and we know their offensive coordinator over there. They have talent at the quarterback position, young talent. So we're excited to see how they step up in these moments, and if the young pups get some run as well.
I don't think you can ask for, and you did a great job covering a lot of bases, because there are matchups all over the field on Friday night that are, from an evaluation standpoint, worth putting eyes on. And I mean, there's going to be guys all over the field making plays. I don't think you can ask for a better receiver versus DB matchup than what you get in what St. Aug brings to the field and on offense on the outside, and the experienced and talented and deep secondary that Edna Karr has there, where it's just D1 guys everywhere, and behind them there's future D1 guys that we're going to be talking about in the next couple of years as well. And so there's a lot of opportunity there for guys to kind of iron sharpens iron type situation, or maybe a young guy has a big game in that type of a setting against that type of a matchup and really puts themselves on the radar in a different way. And so I'm really looking forward to being there Friday, certainly. And I know look, it's a big enough matchup that we have our first ever Recruit That Boot guest. So that says a little something too.
Yeah, he's our boy. Obviously, we've covered him at multiple coaching stints over the last 10, 15 years at this point. We've seen him in the Dome playing. We've seen him in the Dome coaching, hanging out with us. We got a fantastic photo from last year, right before he watched Big Rich Anderson in the Dome. We'll probably have to put with the podcast. But listen, St. Aug is a team that I can speak for myself. I would not be surprised if we saw them playing in the Superdome this year, and I think we'll learn a lot about them this week. Valdez says he's not sure that there is a game this week, but let's ask him straight up what he's thinking about this upcoming Catholic League bout.
Yeah, no doubt. He knows there's a game. He just didn't want to call it a showdown yet last weekend. But let's get right into it. Coach Robert Valdez, we've introed him enough. Let's bring him on right here. There he is, as we introduce St. Augustine coach Robert Valdez, getting ready for another big Catholic League game this weekend. And so, Coach, we appreciate you taking some time to chat with us this morning. And as we said, Sam and I have said a couple of times too, you're the first guest on Recruit That Boot that we've ever brought in to join us. And so I hope that shows a little bit of our appreciation for you and admiration for you and the job that you do, man.
You got to tell the truth, man. We're really good buddies outside of all this. Like every time we see each other, it's good times. So, but I appreciate it, man. Like, you guys, I love the fact that you keep growing in the industry and what you guys are doing. And, we have good football here and you guys are finding them and highlighting them. So, our kids benefit from your work.
Coach, I don't know if you know this, but there is a game this week. I know there's been some public comments that maybe you were not aware. I did check the records. It looks like both of these teams are very good, very talented, both undefeated. You happen to know the head coach on the other side very, very well.
Right.
We were saying this before we started. Maybe this wasn't the expectation year to to be playing in an undefeated showdown with Karr that just is coming off a state title run, but you are here. Tell me about the journey of putting Aug back in a place where it's fan base, it's alumni base. People like you that are from New Orleans grew up seeing Aug in this position. What is it like to see them on track to be this program where it was last time when Leonard Fournette was here?
Right. It's amazing. It's funny because I never thought I'd be like trending and stuff like that, but I was asked a question. It's a great question, but I was like, we hadn't even finished the previous game against Warren Easton, and I was asked about the next week, and I was like, I didn't know, but no, this is a place that I tell people all the time, you can't tell us the history of New Orleans without talking about St. Aug and the men that built this place, and sitting in the sits between Law and Hope Street, so in its inception, it was to give black boys a Catholic education, a quality Catholic education. So it's a purpose, it's a legacy, we understand it, and then when it comes to athletics and all that, we have more NFL alumni than anybody else in the state. Guys come here understanding that they're here for a purpose, and they're here to leave as leaders. And then what we do, and I tell them all the time, man, this is not fun. We have fun, but the work is not. The work is not fun. It's hot. I mean, it was hot every day during the summer. It's tough waking up early in the morning. You have to maintain our academic rigor while working out, practicing, and film study and all that. But our student athletes, have handled that very well. So it's just, to me, is a great place. Leaving, Grambling in the college ranks, when this opportunity was presented itself, it spoke to me. Like I said, I get a chance to be a grandfather, and Hayes, my grandson, he torments reporters in post-game interviews. And my mom and dad still live in Algiers, so I can sneak off and get some food, and and she cooks well all the time. That's how she entices me to come home. Uh, but so for me personally, it was meant to be. Timing was perfect, and my job is just to come in here and try to help our young men, realize their potential and have fun playing ball.
When anywhere you've gone, you've had levels of success, obviously. And I mean, some of them have been places that have had that tradition. Some have been places where there hasn't been a ton of success in recent years. When you arrive to a new program, what has been kind of your approach to build, I guess, to lay a foundation? What have been some of the consistent things in your career that have worked for you to kind of get things going, whether in the right direction or to take that next step as a program?
It's going to sound crazy, but burn the ship, start over. You know, burn the ship, start over, and lay a new foundation, expectation, and establish your core values. And then you're going to have to understand that there's going to be some situations where there may be some casualties and all that, but what needs to be done for the program needs to be done for the program. And so those are some of the things, never ever talk about the previous staff, or never discredit the work that was done before you got to a job. But just understand this is how we do it. We're going to work hard. We're going to try as best we can to pay attention to details, and we're going to reward and highlight effort, and highlight the guys that are doing right. And we're not going to, I think sometimes you spend a lot of time in trying to correct behaviors, and you neglect the guys that are doing right. Well, we flip it. We highlight the guys that are doing right, and then we try to neutralize the ones that hadn't bought in.
Coach, we talked maybe about a month or two ago, before y'all kicked off. I think it might have just been scrimmage season, maybe even jamboree season. And for those who don't know, Coach Valdez played offensive line. Everywhere he's been, Jared talked about all the success he's had running the football, being smash mouth football in the trenches. Yet here we are going into Karr, and he's got two of the best receivers in not only the state but the country. Coach, I would love to hear it from your mouth. Tell me about the offensive philosophy shift from smash mouth, run it down your throat, to I got Miguel Whitley on the left, I got Ray Williams on the right, I got a bunch of talented quarterbacks and a fantastic young quarterback coach. Tell me about this shift to throwing the damn football over and over again.
Man, it's crazy, man, because I don't understand how that happens. It's like I think it's just doggone God sometimes can be a practical joker, because he knows I want to just pound the rock and finish the game in an hour, if we could. Because well, I want to run on and off the bus and the whole time. It's just because it's my philosophy as a player. That's just basically how I see the game. But you come into situations where you get some playmakers, and tell them all the time. We had Shaz Preston at St. James, and we had those guys that benefited from that. I think defenses have to account, and they know. I think the coaches, that they understand that, okay, this is what he wants to do, and eventually that's what we're gonna try to do, and they're gonna have to add numbers to the box, and play some self coverage or play some man to man, and we got guys that can take advantage of and win their one on ones, and I think that Miguel and Raekwon, are pretty good at winning their one on ones, and that's what makes them so dynamic. And we have guys that can get the ball to them, and so it's no secret. They know that, and Miguel knows. You ask them, they'll tell you, "Hey, Coach, I don't even think we practice pass blocking. We just practice run blocking the whole time." I mean, it is what it is, you know. Um, but I mean, I think your team carries your mentality. I think that they carry your mentality, and it's good balance with Coach JP, our office coordinator, because he played quarterback, and he has these nice ideas and these concepts. Like, I really get sleepy when we are and having meetings that we're talking about past concepts and all that. That's when I just kind of snooze off and play Candy Crush. Um, I mean, like, I'm on level like 7,000 right now. And but I mean, it is what it is, and we get the ball to those guys, and we do those things. What's funny is that I'm such an old school guy, and I was asking my coaches. I said, "All right, guys, what's the route tree?" And my young coaches don't know. They don't do route trees. They do concepts, and that's so. And I'm like, oh wow, I mean that's how outdated I am, with all that. So I figured out a way that we call our offense is score. I don't know how, but we just find whatever works, whatever scores. So, and those guys are pretty good. And when then tight end C.J. Dupree is having a good year as well. So he's making some plays and getting some stuff done. But it's no secret, like I said, that it's more fun running the ball. It's just like it makes the game that much more fun. I want to take you down to the deep end of the pool and see if you still want to swim. So, with the run game, but no, though, it just sometimes you have to adapt to your talent, and I think that we've done a very good job of adapting to our talent, and we have two guys, and we have a couple of guys that can they're exceptional making plays, and we get the ball to them.
When you talk about adapting, for you as a coach, the world that we live in now compared to the world that we lived in when you began coaching, when you talk about the NIL opportunities and the explosion of all of the recruiting media and of the 7-on-7 circuits and all of those things, you've been someone that has seemed like you've really embraced some of the opportunities, but have been able to also do a good job of keeping your guys in line to the mission on, every year, every fall, every Friday night. How have you approached that in just the changing landscape around you through the years?
I think it becomes relationships. I think that it's funny because adults we like to give other adults benefit of the doubt, but kids have a finer filter. I think kids have a fine filter to know if you really care about them or not. You know what I'm saying? And they can sense if you have their best interest, and they have a really good gauge about that. So and it becomes relationships. It becomes being able to, to sit down and have the hard conversations. I think sometimes people have a hard time telling good players the right things because they're afraid to get them upset. They're afraid to, they think that's going to cause separation. And we're like, no, we don't. I've never had a fear of that. I think those guys appreciate it. I think every kid wants to be coached hard. Every kid wants to be disciplined, and they respect that, And I think that if they have any ambitions of moving forward, they understand that, hey, man, this is some of the things that, you know, I mean, there's no compromise in that. But you have to have it takes a little time to build those relationships with them, and I think just how consistent you are with the things that you do daily, they'll buy in.
Coach, because Jarrett brought up the recruiting side of things, I'd be remiss to not. You have been the head coach of some fantastically highly coveted recruits. I won't say so much as West St. John, but when you got to St. James and Scotlandville, we're talking about Kelvin Joseph and Savion and Shaz Preston. It's obviously continuing at Aug with those two receivers. We know that Frank Wilson and Brian Kelly and Cortez Hankton love that receiver, Miguel Whitley. We know that LSU, Florida State, the whole country is after Ray Ray. In your experience, what have you taken away from how these two young receivers have dived into the recruiting process? LSU and Ohio State are fighting over Miguel, and it seems like LSU really loves him. What have you seen about a couple of those Aug alum trying to keep LSU and the Whitley family so far?
Well, I mean, here's those guys. Before we start talking about recruiting, those guys compete. Their work ethic is ridiculous. They're in the weight room. They cheer for one another. And when you get them out there to the practice field, they love. They're tremendous competitors. And it's just like I said, St. August always had a very good fertile ground. With LSU's always had very good fertile ground with St. Aug and the players, and of course, you got Cortez Hankton over there, and you got Frank Wilson over there, were Purple Knot alumni. You know, but I would say this, and like I said, with all recruiting, and I'm always supportive and whatnot. Here's the crazy thing about it. I'm not afraid to say it. I'm a Florida State fan. You know, what I'm saying?
That's
I
right.
think you'll, I think you'll know that. But I've not had a kid sign at Florida State yet because them boys don't like leaving New Orleans. They don't like leaving the state. But with recruiting, when it comes down to recruiting, I just basically tell my parents and tell the players that, man, just go and see and just be able to be open to see, and it becomes a feel thing. It becomes it becomes a feeling. So I mean, nowadays with NIL, nowadays with facilities, with all these different things that's going on, there's really not much separation. I mean, you want to go to LSU because you're loyal to the state of Louisiana, then go to LSU. You know what I'm saying? But if you feel it somewhere else, if that's what you feel, then like I said, go with your move. You know what I'm saying? Go with your move. And I think that these two guys are going to be guys that that all these schools are going to have to do their due diligence in recruiting. And I think LSU has an edge because of proximity. But I think that like if they leave it up to me, I'm like, hey man, let's just sit. We're gonna sit down and and just figure it out. We'll sit down and figure it out. It's funny because all those guys that you mentioned, I don't really. I kind of just sit on the side, and I let the parents, and you've seen it before. I let the parents, pretty much do all of this, the research and all that. If they come and ask me, we talk about the pros and cons. We talk about the good and bad, and then we ask them. I said, do you want to travel? And you want to stay home? Is that something important? I went to Southern University because I didn't want my parents to travel far to see me play. So they were
Right.
at every game, so that was important for me, what I'm saying? Some kids may want to travel, some kids may want to venture. So we support them in that. And so we say that, hey man, come on over 2600, we'll have a good time. And, and if you're hungry, you can look at me and tell I've gained weight since I got back. I mean, it's crazy. We'll have somewhere to eat.
Um, you mentioned Florida State. I was going to talk to you about that at some point this week, man. Like, it feels like most of the Louisiana colleges are off this weekend. There's no Catholic League games on Saturday. Everybody's playing Thursday and Friday. And so I was looking forward to this Florida State Miami game, and then Florida State goes and trips up against Virginia and kind of spoiled a little bit of it this past week. But I'm still looking forward to that game nonetheless. You
He'll be all right.
mentioned, yeah, it's still going to be fun. It always is, even when neither team's been good.
Hmm.
You mentioned the dynamics of having been a college coach and now dealing with the new era of college football and recruiting and the way it trickles down to high school. There have been a lot of college coaches that have gotten out of college coaching, whether it be going back to high school or going up to like Bo Davis with the Saints now. It What is your perspective on what it's like to be a college coach now? Would you ever do that again, or have you been excited at getting away from some of the challenges of being a college coach right now, in addition to what drew you to St. Aug on the positive side?
I don't think you can see my face smile wide enough. It's crazy. I respect and sympathize with college coaches so much because it really is, man, there's so much going on. I mean, because I mean, not only with recruiting and not only with, you know, I had the opportunity to work with Hugh Jackson, and we didn't deal with bargaining, because I mean, when I was at Graham, and most coaches don't deal with that. That becomes next level and whatnot. But the expectations, you're sitting in a room with kids that have more money than you do, and you're trying to figure out what you're going to eat for lunch, and them they are Uber eating prime ribs and asparagus, and you're sitting up there trying to figure out, can you go to McDonald's to get a Happy Meal? Um, so it and like I said, it's a microwave society where everybody wants instant success, and building a roster in college. You have the transfer portal, you have the high school kids really have kind of been a little bit, you know, put in a situation where you are the elite or you're not that existent. Um, so no, for me, I really believe I got the bug out of me. You know what I'm saying? But then Miss Valdez, is my agent. She may have something to say with that. But no, I'm happy here. I think this is a great place. I love New Orleans. I love what we stand for here at St. Aug. And like I said, this is where I'm at, and trying to build a powerhouse program. And it's going to take a little time, but for us to be 4-0 right now, it's exciting. And And then look, when I get a chance to talk to you guys, I'm doing something, well. I used to talk to you individually, but when I get talk to you in this, that's like, man, this is what's up, man. This highlight of my day. I want to talk to y'all last night,
You had me nervous thinking that we were about to hop on the podcast last night.
No, I had an 8. I thought it was gonna be you guys at 9 and a 10. So it's kind of been busy this week.
Last thing from me, Coach, is you talked about it. The beauty of high school football is, I mean, I joke about it with Jarrett. It's second to none. Some of the feelings you get on Friday nights, I think, are unparalleled because college football and the NFL are businesses. Some person that's going to be playing at the next level is Big Rich Anderson, who you need to find a way to pass protect and maybe create some gaps around this weekend. I know you know about Big Rich. I know you pride yourself on this O-line that you're building at Aug, and I know you got some young pups in there that you're very excited about. When you go against a defense that has Big Rich Anderson right in the middle, you got talented DBs like Hayward Howard and Aiden Hall and Mo Williams. I mean, the names go on and on. Bryce and Coach Howard are spoiled over there in Algiers. What is the way to attack all this talent? How can a great high school program with a lot of weapons kind of slow down a couple of future Tigers and Colorado Buffs and Texas Longhorns on the other side?
Well, I was trying to see if I can just send Carr Instacart or Uber Eats Taco Bell so that hopefully that he can eat that before the game and have stomach issues. You know what I'm saying? No, I mean, look, no, this kid is phenomenal. I've watched him over the last couple of years, and he's done a very, very good job with his body, to put his body in shape to even be more dynamic, more twitchy, and more explosive. He's strong. I mean, he has it. He's deserving of his ranking, and I think LSU is going to get a premier defensive lineman. And so, I mean, like I said, the thing about them is that if yeah, of course, he's you gotta try to block the guy, you know what I'm saying? But if you block him, it's like I said, it's the Hunger Games, you pass one level and then there's another level, and then there's 6'5" defensive ends, and there's safeties that run 4-3 playing linebacker, and then you got the DBU in the backfield. You got Texas, you got LSU, so it's like, man, it's like, I tell you, it's like going to Golden Corral. You just don't know what you want to order first, who you want to go after and whatnot. So it's gonna be it's a tall task, like I said, and the thing about it is that no matter what, it's gonna make us better because it's gonna be tough to see, and people focus on them a lot, but Coach T. Howard is a defense coordinator. Does a great job with giving you so many different looks. It's a lot of different looks, so you can't get comfortable, and Coach Brown, offensively and what they do offensively, is they're very, very good at finding their own matchups and finding numbers and whatnot. So, they overshadowed. Everybody thinks about the athletes, but people overshadow the quality of work that's being done over there. You don't just win like that, by just saying you have athletes. They're very well coached. They're disciplined. They have their own purpose. They have their own beliefs and whatnot, and they play like that. So for us, like I said, to be the top dog, you gotta knock the top dog off the porch, and so to be able to knock the top of them, you have to knock them off while they're at their best, and so. For us to be at this position, like I said, year 2, to be able to go out there and fight and compete with them, it's going to be interesting for me to see our growth. But I mean, you're talking about how you gonna block this guy the whole game? Like, we just you got to just tell him go that way or something, and so, I mean, and then you do that, you got Aiden Hall over there. Like, I still don't know where this kid lines up at. Like, he's like they use him like Troy Polamalu. He's all over the field. I cannot. The more and more I watch film, it's like, where's Waldo? Where is he at? He is the fix, and then you got Hayward Howard, who's like 6'5". I mean, it's like, it's like trying to guard Kevin Durant, playing man on man. I mean, who. So it's like, I laugh at it because some coaches will probably be all stressed out and high strung and all that. I'm a realist, man. These dudes are good, and we just got to go out there and we got to be good. We have to match with them for 4 quarters. We have to be at our best, because what happens with them is they're such a second half team that most teams go out there and they blow a fuse in the first half, and then those guys are just sitting there just like just like your grandfather on the porch, just waiting and waiting and waiting, and then when you shot your wad, you ain't got nothing left, and they just blow you out. So we have to be able to play the whole game.
No doubt. I think we may have even kept you a little bit longer this morning than I intended to, and so let you wrap up
All
with
good.
that, man, and get back to the final couple days of planning. But we appreciate you.
Listen, it's the NBA Finals in PE here at St. Augustine High School. You know what I'm saying? So I gotta go. I gotta go referee LeBron, Kobe, Shaq, and all of them right now. So you didn't. You didn't take me away from too much. So thank y'all, man. Appreciate it.
We appreciate you being here with us, Coach, and we're so excited for this weekend.
All right, man. Have a good day.
We'll talk to you later.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
I think in terms of bringing on a first guest, that worked out pretty well. You and I mean, we could have talked to Coach Valdez for probably an hour, 2 hours. We could have made a whole Wednesday out of it. So it was great to have him for sure. Sam, what stood out to you about so much that he shared, both in terms of some good insight and some great lines along the way too?
I mean, I can remember sitting with him in beautiful downtown Battery after Lowell's injury, just about, should he be handling all media for St. James in general moving forward, because he's such a firecracker when the camera is on him. I believe he has a background in communications, which is why he just knows how to step up into these big moments when the big questions are asked. But what I love, and I know you love, is like, at both St. Aug and Edna Karr, they are very serious about the game that is about to get played. And I love that we can speak about it in a fun and exciting, way, because like it's going to be all business in a couple of hours. So I appreciated that he can enjoy the moment, enjoy his time with us, be very open and frank about the talent on the field, which, is what we really care about and zero in on. And also he can put on those Olympics for those kids in PE at the same time. He's babysitting, he's teaching, he's educating, he's coaching, and he's also being the inaugural guest on the Recruit Dat Boot. So, like, what can Coach Valdez do?
I only did a year of the teaching game, and I can tell you, as stressful as preparing for Big Rich and Aiden and John and all those guys is, the comments that he shared about he's about to have to go officiate the NBA Finals of PE. That's a pretty stressful day over there on a Wednesday too, because some of these games can get pretty heated by the guys that aren't going to be on the field on Friday night necessarily. So appreciate him finding some time in the middle of everything going on this week. Maybe we call it a showdown, maybe we don't. Either way, it's a really big game on Friday night between the Purple Knights and the Cougars. So definitely looking forward to that one. Also wanted to touch on, before we get out of here, kind of a breaking recruiting note to make sure to get to that was happening right as we were hopping on with Coach Valdez. But LSU makes its offer to Franklin Parish 2027 running back Trey Martin, a two-way or three-phase standout for the Patriots up there in that next class after the 26 group we've talked about so much with Pook Ellis and Chris Addison and Tavon Bell and company. And he's a guy that I know has emerged to me as one of the top guys in the state, and clearly to Frank Wilson and company as well for that 27 class. It had felt like it had stayed relatively quiet, that emergence for him, but I think the quiet part is now gone now that he's a Tigers target, and folks are going to start figuring out who Trey Martin is here really soon. I know you've had a chance to watch him a little bit as some of the recruiting has taken off for him. His first offer from Louisiana Tech earlier this year, and just kind of gradually gained some steam from there. What has caught your eye early on for Trey Martin, and maybe, that folks need to keep an eye on, or that you're looking forward to seeing more of him now as his recruitment hits that next gear?
Yeah, well, we know that he's had an in-person evaluation. We know that LSU DB coach Corey Raymond has been up in Franklin Parish to, as coaches hit the road, evaluating Pook Ellis, also some of the other talent on Franklin Parish. They have Chris Addison, who's committed to Michigan State as a two-way defensive pass catcher as well. But for Trey, this is interesting because this is the second offer that Frank Wilson has put out at the running back position for 2027. He joins Jay Miles from Baton Rouge Catholic. And what I love is these are not the same type of running back. In fact, there's probably no other running back in the country that I can really liken to Jaden Miles, because he is baby Diet Coke Derrick Henry, because the way he runs is downhill with such ferocity. But Trey Martin gives that big play spark, that breakaway home run hit. Not to say that Jaden doesn't have that, but Trey has a little bit more burst and explosiveness in his game. And, the running back depth in Baton Rouge has been a topic of discussion throughout the season. They obviously have replenished the roster with a ton of young talent, but for a while it was kind of leaning toward Jaden Miles being not only the top target, but probably a lean for LSU in that class. And now with an offer on the table, I would not be surprised if LSU gets in this quick and can potentially is in a line to sign 2 running backs next year.
The significance, obviously, for Winsboro and Franklin Parish, and when we talked when LSU made its move on Pook, and when Pook committed for this 26 group, he's going to be the first guy from that community to play for Franklin Parish High and then go on to LSU, since back predating Franklin Parish High, back when it was old Winsboro High and Booger McFarland was coming out of the area. And so the potential now to have back-to-back classes where a guy is going to play for LSU, if LSU can indeed successfully land Trey Martin, which, I mean, the early gut feeling would be that they will be tough to beat and trying to get him out of state. In addition to the other guys that we mentioned, Chris Addison going to a Big Ten school in Michigan State, there are some great things happening up there in Winsboro. Coach Adrian Burnett, our buddy Tate Trent, all those guys doing a great job helping to build that program up there. And there's some great talent coming through and staying and playing with the Patriots. And so that's really exciting. Also for fans just trying to watch how this 27 class takes shape, and we're talking about the running back targets, keep an eye on a guy we've talked about before. You said Jay Miles before, Jay Vital out at Hamilton Christian, who is everywhere on the field for the Warriors right now, and I think is listed by a lot of folks as a wide receiver. He's bulked up and gotten a lot stronger over the last, I guess we'll say the offseason, but over the last year. And he's someone that I know Frank Wilson is intrigued. Could we use him in the backfield a little bit if we can get him in purple and gold? And so he could be a part of that equation too, as that class takes shape. He's another guy, though, that there's going to be a battle to fight off USC and some other programs around the country to keep him in Louisiana. So we'll see how it all takes shape, but a lot of great talent in Louisiana for 2027, and really exciting to watch some of the recruiting processes take shape and figure out where these guys are all